Megan and welcome back to another video. I am actually really excited about today's topic. It's really combining two of my all-time loves, and that is reality television and books. That's right, today I'm going to be recommending books to you based off of your favorite reality TV show. I personally consider myself a reality TV connoisseur. I watch all types, all genres. In fact, I honestly could make a part 2 and 3 of this video, so if this, is something you guys like and are interested in, I can make more. But today I decided to focus on some of the most popular and some of my personal faves, so without further ado, let's recommend some books based off of your favorite reality TV show. So the first show I'm gonna give a recommendation for is one of my all-time favorites, and that is MTV The Challenge. I personally have been watching MTV The Challenge for well over a decade at this point. I feel like it houses quite a few wonderful reality TV tropes. You've got a competition element, you've got a drama element, you got a politic element, and in general, a lot of these characters have a long history, a long-standing relationship, which really creates interesting storylines over multiple seasons. You know what I mean? So, based off of this TV show, I've decided to recommend Jade City by Fonda Lee. I've done this for a few reasons. One, I feel like Jade City is an incredible novel, just off the bat. It is an Asian-inspired urban fantasy story centering one central crime family. It's multi-POV, and you follow different characters throughout this family and their different positions as they're trying to maintain power and also fight a turf war with another crime family in town. It has a magic system centered around the concept of Jade. Jade users basically have extreme strength that are able to kind of use various powers to kind of maintain their hold on this city. The reason why I recommend this, if you like The Challenge, is because I feel like it combines both political elements, as definitely politics and maneuvering is definitely very central in this crime family, but it also has a lot of action. Outside of the plot kind of housing two central components I think is really key to The Challenge, which is politics and action. I also feel like one of the main characters of this book would honestly thrive on the show. Hilo, I mean, the guy's charismatic, he's a great leader, people love to follow him and work with him, but if he needs to, he will throw a punch in a bar and do what he needs to do as well. I feel like Hilo would absolutely dominate on The Challenge. Anyone out there agree with me? Let me know. But yes, Jade City is a fantastic urban fantasy story. It's full of wonderful action, lots of family drama, which means it cuts super deep, and just honestly a fantastic book all around. And if you love The Challenge, you should definitely check this one out. The next show I'm gonna mention is Survivor, another one of my all-time favorites. I have seen every single season of Survivor. I could talk gameplay all day, and I personally think if you love Survivor, you would also love Gideon the Ninth by Thompson Muir. This is a sci-fi necromancer story set in space, and it kind of transforms into a whodunit murder mystery, survival-based story as well. This is set in a sci-fi world where there are a bunch of planets that essentially have their own necromancy house and power. Our main character, Gideon, has grown up on a very far away, remote planet called Ninth House. She has basically been trying to leave this planet her entire life, and her arch nemesis, Harrowhawk, has basically been stopping her entire life. These two characters hate each other so very much, but at the beginning of the story, Harrowhawk is presented an opportunity to kind of raise the prestige of the Ninth House planet by partaking in this competition on a faraway kind of remote place. She convinces Gideon to help her out in exchange for her freedom, and they travel there. From there, it really turns into a murder mystery competition style story. I feel like it links up so perfectly with Survivor because this story is all about people not really knowing who to trust. They're shaky alliances, but at the end of the day, people are suspicious of each other. There's lots of scheming behind the scenes, and there's also literal challenges that teams have to complete to be able to move forward in their own success within this overall competition. Not to mention, there is just fantastic humor and characters kind of rooted within the story, but everyone's trapped on the same remote planet. Everyone doesn't really know how to win, but they're all competing against each other to do so. It's great. It's so witty and so smart, and just like, who doesn't love a necromancer competition set in space? You know? It's cutthroat as well, literally. There are people dying left and right. Next up is my recommendation if you love The Real Housewives, another fan favorite personally, and that is going to be Little Fires Everywhere by Celeste Ng. This is a suburban drama. Basically, if you love gossip, housewives talking behind each other's backs, this is a book to definitely check out, combining with the fact that Celeste Ng is just an absolute fantastic writer. There's also an adaptation of this, and I would say this definitely has darker, deeper family themes, which I feel like tends to lurk behind the scenes of The Real Housewives anyway. They kind of bring you in with this glitzy facade, but then kind of behind you realize that there are some dark secrets a lot of these families are keeping, which is definitely present within this book as well. This essentially opens with a house on fire. This is set in a prestigious artsy community in Ohio, and this essentially follows two families that become deeply connected. The first is Elena Richardson's family, which from the outside looks like they have it all. They have a beautiful home, they have a beautiful family, they have the white picket fence. Elena is really involved within the community, and she very much is someone who plays by the rules. However, when an artist moves into town and rents out Elena Richardson's like secondary home, everything begins to change, and the status quo threatens to kind of upend the entire community. This is truly about two families kind of coming together in ways you wouldn't anticipate. Children begin to get drawn, there's lots of drama, and ultimately the cracks that have kind of been hiding behind the scenes begin to turn into chasms that no one else can ignore. It's dramatic, family, as well as motherhood centered, kind of set again in that suburban setting. It's so, so good. I also just love Celeste Ng's writing. Like, I feel like I want to recommend her books all of the time, but this I do feel like is an absolute perfect pickup for The Real Housewives. Next TV show I'm going to be chatting about is The Bachelor. Now, this is obviously a classic dating, marriage, competition show. You know, everyone's vying after, you know, to get picked to be married at the end. The Bachelor. Everyone knows it. Everyone's seen it. For this, I'm actually going to recommend Pride and Prejudice. I actually feel like if you think about it, these really line up quite well. Not only does Mr. Darcy and Elizabeth Bennet's kind of cat and mouse really perfectly encapsulates a lot of what happens on The Bachelor in terms of the drama, but just kind of the spirit of it all, the propriety, the aspect of there being a few really eligible individuals and a lot of people kind of flocking and going after them, standing out in a crowd, standing out at a party. You know, ultimately love kind of being central as part of the story. I also feel like if Mr. Darcy lived in this day and age, he would definitely get casted on The Bachelor. I feel like he would hate it, but I feel like he would definitely be someone that they would go after. Good looking, wealthy, you know, cool house, family drama. Like, what is there not to love with Mr. Darcy? But if you're not familiar, Pride and Prejudice is the epic and fantastic romance between Mr. Darcy and Elizabeth Bennet. There's family components, there's propriety and society, there's great verbal sparring, and one great carriage ride handhold, you know, for you to check out. A literal literary classic, and also one that has quite a few media adaptations to choose from, you know, movies, television shows, lots of ways to consume the story of Pride and Prejudice if you haven't already. It's still one of my favorite books of all time, so I thought I would include it as a recommendation. Next reality TV show I'm going to be chatting about is The Great British Bake Off, or The Great British Baking Show, depending on where you live in the world. This is the ultimate feel-good reality TV show about just bakers coming to a tent, making beautiful creations, but ultimately making friends and trying their best along the way. It is emotional, it is feel-good, and it's truly a competition show that has nothing to do with the competition, but has everything to do with love, you know? Given the feel-good nature of this show, I feel like I have to recommend a feel-good book. So I'm going with The House on the Cerulean Sea by T.J. Klune. This essentially follows our main character Linus, who is a social worker for magical children. He's definitely a rule follower, and he wouldn't really consider himself happy, but he is generally content with his life. At the beginning of the story, he's kind of presented with an unusual case, and he has to travel to a faraway orphanage just to kind of report back to upper management. This orphanage is said to be full of dangerous magical children. But once he arrives and meets them, he realizes it is a beautiful home full of children that have been misjudged, and it's run by a man named Arthur, and it's just literally one of the sweetest, most beautiful stories I've ever read. There's a love story in this book, but truly just the found family element of this is just unbelievable, and I promise you will cry tears of joy. And honestly, Linus or Arthur, I feel like, could easily become contestants on the Great British Baking Show. Like, one of them picking up a baking habit and just randomly appearing on a season. I feel like it's not so far-fetched to say, but this is a sugar cookie of a book. So I feel like really, honestly, it's a must read. Next reality TV show recommendation is going to be for The Amazing Race. And for this, I'm gonna go with The Girl Who Circumnavigated Fairyland in a Ship of Her Own Making by Catherine M. Valente. That is a bit of a mouthful, but I picked this middle grade story story because it is an adventure at the heart of it. This is all about a young girl traveling to fairyland and basically having to confront and overcome a variety of different whimsical obstacles that she is faced with. I feel like this pairs well with kind of teams competing and traveling all around the world and kind of coming to different, tasks that they have to complete. There's definitely a level of urgency, but the ultimate thing is that they're traveling, there's a journey component, and that definitely pairs with the girl who circumnavigated fairyland, as she is also on her own personal journey throughout this new wide world that she has encountered. It's super fun. The writing is absolutely magical and whimsical and honestly so visual, and obviously because it has such a journey quest element to it, you're traveling and seeing so many new places through our main character's eyes. It's just a lovely book and a wonderful series. I personally hope to continue throughout the rest of this year, but the first one is definitely a great one to check out if you just like travel or quests or kind of encountering and tackling new things and new places. You should read this book. My next recommendation pairs with the television show Love Island. Love Island, what is there not to love? A multi-episode dating-based reality TV show that brings us so many gems from across the pond, and even the US one is actually pretty entertaining. It's all about finding love, having some good chat, and likely getting Instagram famous. All in all, it is angsty and incredibly entertaining, and I feel like if you like Love Island, you should honestly read anything by Cassandra Claire. Hear me out. I actually think this makes a lot of logical sense because part of the charm of Love Island is that there isn't just one couple. It's not a bunch of people competing for the interest of one person. There are a bunch of different couples, each with their own stuff going on, their own drama, their own issues, their own love, their own personal journey. And that's what also makes Love Island so compelling, because you have all these different groups of people falling in love for different reasons, and everyone is also very distinct, at least in theory they're supposed to be. And that's why I feel like Cassandra Clare books are also so much fun. Obviously, Cassandra Clare has a shadow hunter component to it. They're fighting demons, they're saving the world, there's combat, there's adventure, there's all of that. But my personal favorite component of Cassandra Clare books is the angsty romance that's at the center. And there are so many different romances in each series to fall in love with. There are so many characters that have their own threads and their own special moments. It's just so much fun. It's literally like an urban fantasy Love Island situation in some ways. There are at least 6 to 8 couples per trilogy or series I feel like that Cassandra Clare puts out. Like, there are so many people that you can follow and watch fall in love. Also, I mean, I honestly just love Cassandra Clare's angsty romances. I think she thinks of so many great ways to keep characters apart, which makes it very satisfying when they ultimately come back together. Her writing's great, classic YA fantasy. You honestly can check out any of her series out there. One of my favorites is obviously the Last Hour series, The Infernal Devices, Lady Midnight, so many great ones, but yeah, couples for days, you know what I mean? And then the very last reality TV show I'm gonna mention today is Big Brother, the classic everyone's watching you, competing and trying to make it to the end kind of story. For this, I'm gonna go with Senlin Ascends by Josiah Bancroft. This I selected for a variety of reasons. One, we follow our main character Senlin, who basically travels to this mythical, magical Tower of Babel with his new wife at the beginning of book 1. Once he arrives, he immediately loses her, and so begins his journey throughout this tower to try to find and save her. The reason why I selected this for Big Brother is because you do have a main character that you're rooting for, which tends to happen in the reality TV show too, but the journey through the tower is perilous, and it's perilous for a variety of reasons. One, each floor kind of has its own vibe. You're kind of making loose alliances, and it's always very unclear who you can trust, and there also always appears to be people literally watching or controlling things from behind the scenes in a variety of different ways. Literally, that's the case on some floors, but there's always this feeling that there is this higher political power that is kind of pulling the strings of everything within this tower, and we're just not totally sure why or how they're doing it. I would also say the vibe in the tower is very much every person for themselves. The tower is constantly taking people's lives, and ultimately trying to help someone might doom yourself. It's a really interesting and dark and devious place, and I feel like because of that it kind of fits with the idea of the Big Brother vibe, and is much darker than I would say the actual reality TV show Big Brother is, but where the TV show got its inspiration from I do feel like fits within the story as well. This is also full of adventure. You love Senlin as a main character, and it is really whimsical and really wild in terms of the actual adventure you follow him going on, but this feeling of being watched, this feeling of having your strings pulled is definitely very prevalent within the story, which is why I feel like it would be a great read if you love Big Brother. Alrighty guys, those are my book recommendations based on your favorite reality TV show. Let me know down below some books you think would fit really well with these shows, as I would love to know. Anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed, and I will see you soon with another one soon.